very nice to meet you. Thank you for inviting me to do this show. I'm super excited.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that. A mutual friend connected the two of us because of our mutual interests and passions and that and whatnot. CrossFit being the intersector, but really overcoming addiction coming prior to that. So I would love to hear your story on that. Like what came first and what does that journey look like for you?
It's been a long journey. There's so many details, so many ups and downs, and I could just talk about it for hours. I'll try to do my best to sum it up as much as I can. I don't
Well,
really
let's.
like, well, go ahead.
Oh, you don't like what?
I don't like going into drunk logs too much,
Mm-hmm.
because number one, it's not important to go into the details of everything you did. And I think when I first started this journey and when I first got sober, my message, I felt like people always had to hear the details of how bad it was, you know.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to show people and part of my one of my biggest character defects is people pleasing.
Mm.
And so, in the beginning of this journey, when I first started getting sober, I always wanted people to know the details because in my mind, I thought if people know the details, they know that's not where I'm at now. But see, now throughout this process, I don't really go into the details of what I did because that's not as important as, how I got through it. But I will share some, so I know I'm
Yeah,
rambling.
well, and because it is interesting because I think, the people can really relate to like the overcoming of adversity. And so when they hear the depths of what you've overcame, it sort of builds that cred of like how amazing you're doing now. Like if you don't talk about how bad it is, people don't know how fucking good, sorry, how good it is now, because there's a comparison point, right? So I totally get it. And it was something that was difficult for me. Obviously, for the last few years, I've been saying it over and over. It's gotten, like you said, less hairy details, more like high level. But at the same time, it is important for everyone to understand, how bad it was, so they can know how good you are now.
Right. That's true. That's true. Well, I guess I'll just start, from the beginning, man. I was born in 1983. Just a little bit. Oh, this is my 41st year, so people always think I'm younger than what I am, but that's all right.
That's a
Uh,
good. That's a good thing. Yeah.
yeah. So I grew up in Oakland, California, West Oakland specifically. And my father is Caucasian, my mother was black, and so growing up, man, I just really had a hard time, back in those days, especially in that area, being mixed race.
Yeah.
And so, because predominantly the neighborhood is black. And so, growing up, I had a lot hard time with kids in the neighborhood. And
Were you
even
sort
when
of getting rejected by both? Like you're not really white, you're not really black, and so it's difficult to like sort of find your place.
well, it was mostly, you know, it wasn't, I was an anomaly. I was considered white or
Mm,
different, right? And at that time, I was in private school, and it was mostly, um, white, some Hispanic, maybe a small amount of black, and I would get picked on for being who I was. I was just different. I mean, it wasn't, not saying there's never been mixed race, kids in the 80s, but back then it was
especially
just,
Oakland. Yeah.
yeah, I was just so different,
Yeah.
and I hated it. I hated being different. I hated feeling different, you
Yeah.
know. My father and my mother, had a lot of issues. Um, and my father was very verbally, emotionally, and physically abusive to me at a young age. And
Mm,
so I, at a young age, suffered from my identity crisis, like, why am I
yeah.
here? And I remember being a kid, man, just looking in the mirror as a kid, just saying, I don't want to be here anymore. You know,
Mm,
this is like 6, 7, 8, almost 9 years old. And
Wow.
my father, my excuse me, my mother met my stepfather, and he came into our lives. And by the way, I've learned to forgive my father, so I don't want to blast him. He is a good man.
Yeah.
He just made mistakes, and that's the beauty about this process too. Sobriety is like you kind of have a open mind to understanding, that he was suffering from something from his childhood, that he kind of carried over.
Yeah.
So I've learned to forgive him. I love him to death. So I don't want
Yeah.
to blast him in any way, you know.
Yeah, the
But
reality is there's no manual to being a parent, and we come in with our own stuff, and we haven't processed our own stuff, so it comes out through kids. And yeah, yeah,
yeah,
it's a great understanding to have that.
no. So at a
Yeah.
young age, I just didn't understand that, why just kids didn't like me, people didn't like me. My father was like this. It was a lot. So I did everything I could to fit in, right? Like I didn't want to be different. And that's where that people pleasing started.
Yeah.
It started actually with my father as well, trying to tiptoe around him to make sure he never got angry. Um, and I did everything I could. And so at a young age, I was an athlete. My mother did not, excuse me, my mother did not want me to, get involved in like football, things that I wanted to do. I tried baseball, I tried a little bit of basketball, but she got me into swimming.
I was about to ask you. I saw the picture in the background. Yep.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah,
Yeah. That
my
was literally my next question. So that's awesome. Yep.
yeah. And so that was at the height of my career, by the
Yeah.
way.
That's awesome.
So swimming was something I was good at. Um, I didn't want to be good at it, you know. It kept me out of trouble. I mean,
Mm.
during that time, I would swim during the summer, at the local recreational pool, and we had swim meets and different pools we would, have competitions against. And then throughout the school year, I would swim year round. So I was on the USS swim team. At the time, it was
Mm.
called the Oakland Barracudas. And
Oh,
so,
wow.
but here's the deal: when I got into junior high and high school, there wasn't a lot of swimmers, and I felt different, right?
Mm.
And I wanted to play football, and I wanted to get all the girls, and I wanted all the flashy things that
Yeah.
everybody else was doing. But my
Yep.
mom kept me in swimming. So by the time I got 17, I was done. I was done. My senior year, like I had an opportunity to swim for college, but I didn't want to do it. I was
Mm.
just done. I was so burnt out. I was done. I didn't want to have anything to do with swimming anymore. I was a lifeguard. I mean, my whole life surrounded around the pool, competition.
Yeah.
And as good
And
as I,
Oakland is surrounded by water. We got that ocean out there too. So you literally just couldn't get away from it.
yeah. But at that time, I mean, in hindsight, looking back, I didn't realize that my mother what she was trying to do
Mm.
was she was trying to open a door for me to see different things, to be amongst, a different lens, you know, um, which, like triathlons and things like that, like things that we weren't exposed to. She was trying to expose me
Yeah.
to a different world in a different way, but I didn't want it. So when I got to college, and by the way, throughout that whole time, I was never a drinker. I never did drugs. I maybe tried weed maybe once, but I
Wow.
mean,
To get
and
all the way through high school with that, that's pretty amazing.
yeah, and what's actually even more amazing is I went to Oakland Tech. It's where Marshawn Lynch, football player, he went.
Mhm.
Um, if you were seen as someone who drank or someone who used drugs other than weed, you were really looked down upon.
Mm, that's good.
Because in my heart, I think the reason why is because we grew up in a very low income, you know, um, ghetto hood as you can be neighborhood from East, West, North Oakland, and we seen our uncles and people on the streets who were addicted to crack cocaine, and we've seen
Yeah.
alcoholics in the park. Like a lot of a lot of kids that I went to school with seen that, or they were experiencing that through their own family. So kids weren't doing that in high school. You may have one or two, but it
Yeah.
wasn't like that. The most kids did was smoke weed. But
That's good.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was a deterrent. But yeah, I didn't do anything. Like I said, I tried weed maybe once or twice, but it wasn't in my scope at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And the swimming. I mean, when you're that active and you have that much accountability and meets and practice, there's not a lot of room for a lot else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I got accepted to Chico State.
Mm. Mm-mm. Number one party school in California. Woo!
Yeah, and the thing about it is I had no idea. I had
Oh,
no
wow.
idea. I just wanted to get away from Oakland. That's it.
Yep.
And I got accepted and I went up there and I had a really good time. And because what it was for me was I felt free amongst, in Oakland, if you're gonna go out, if you're gonna go to a party or a function, as we used to call it, you really had to be, alert.
Yeah.
It's not like you can have a good time all the time.
Yeah.
I went to Chico, man, and I'm sorry if this isn't politically correct, but white people really know how to party and have a good time.
Without the violence or having to look over your shoulder. Everyone's just drunk and dumb. Yeah.
Drunk and dumb, man. And so I met some really good people, and that's where my drinking started, but it was
Yeah.
all for fun, right? Fast forward, I had to leave Chico State after the first year. I couldn't afford to have housing. So I came back to the Bay Area. We were living in Richmond with my mom. And I started working and I was trying to go to school. I started working for UPS, and I just remember it was like this rainy Thursday. I'm walking, it was this long old walk to get to the building, and I'm working for UPS, and I'm just like miserable. I said, you know what? I'm going back to Chico State. I'm not doing this shit anymore. And so that following year, I came back to Chico 2005, and I was still working for UPS, but I was able to kind of get transferred up there. And at
Nice.
that time, I was 21, and Chico was like, "All right, this is now
Yeah.
we're about to have some real fun."
Yeah. Now you could go to the bars. Before it was just like frat houses and party places, but 21 is like now we all get to go to the bar and have fun.
Yes, and some of
Yeah.
my friends that were there my freshman year were still there. They hadn't graduated yet,
Mm.
and so it was it was all open arms.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working at UPS from the shift that they gave me. I was a supervisor. I was working at from 4:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
Mm.
And I was barely making it to class, man. I was drinking, and in Chico we party Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, sometimes
Oh, yeah.
Sunday. And so that was like my lifestyle. And
Which is rough. You're burning the candle at both ends at that point. I mean, yeah.
yeah, and it was it was really difficult to manage.
Yeah.
And so what happened was I ended up picking up a food addiction.
Mm.
So I mean, I would literally eat fast food
Yeah.
every single day. And I mean, it
And you
was so
probably weren't working out as much, obviously, not as much as when you were a swimmer, but
I
yeah, so
wasn't
the
working
working
out
out
at
stopped
all.
as well. Yeah.
Everything stopped. And so, you know, for me, it was like, you look in the mirror. Like for me, it really took some time for me to look in the mirror and say, you know what, I gained weight, or I don't look right.
Mm.
You don't really notice it when you're in this lifestyle. You just kind of go with the flow.
Yeah.
Um, so I
And you're
was
young, so you have a better metabolism. So it's probably not as significant as if somebody older was doing this kind of stuff.
right, right.
Yeah.
And so
Mm.
I would literally drink, and sometimes I would get home, no lie, I would get home from the bar like at 3 a.m. I would say, all right, I'm gonna sleep from 3 to 3:20. I'm gonna get up and go to work, and
Ooh.
get Jack in the Box, 24-hour Jack in the Box on the way. And that's what I would do. And that was my
Wow.
lifestyle. Um, until one day I said, you know what? maybe I should start exercising, just to see, see how I feel. And it was 2007. I just happened to be friends with a personal trainer, and I remember we scheduled a first day. The night before, I went to KFC and just pigged out. I, sh- I show up the next day to do this
Ugh.
training session, and he's taking all my measurements and the little instrument that takes your body fat.
Oh, I hate that thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's got my arm, and I kid you not,
Yeah.
he's got my arm, and he's doing this.
Uh-huh.
He's like, and I said, what? What's wrong? And he's like, Rory, I think last night was your last chicken strip for a while, buddy.
Ah.
I, I can't remember the exact number, but like my body fat was like over 40%. It was something
Yeah.
like that.
Probably so much inflammation too from all the alcohol. So like, it sometimes looks like fat, but it's just inflammation on top of the fat.
Yeah. So we started working out, and
Yeah.
that didn't initially kick my fast food habit or my drinking habit, but it was a start. And then I realized I couldn't afford them because it was too much. So I started working out on my own. Um,
Mm.
Back then, there was no Instagram. It was MySpace, I think. But I mean, I just started with Muscle Magazine Fitnesses. I didn't want to go back to swimming because I felt like I just didn't look good enough to get in the water, and it was just all ego. So,
Yeah.
so I got a gym membership and I started
But
working
in your defense, men's swimming attire is very small. So I also
out.
understand. I mean, at least women, we can like wear a one piece and maybe cover some stuff up. For you guys, there's just not that. So
Yeah.
I also understand it's ego, but it's also reality.
Yeah. I mean, I was super, insecure about my body at this point. You know,
Yeah.
I got up to 330 pounds,
Wow.
330 pounds at that time.
Wow.
And so, you know, I just, then I had this awakening like, oh shit, like, excuse my language. Oh crap, this is not me.
Yeah.
Um, Still drinking, still going to the gym. And then something happened where I started to kind of like move a little bit more fluently. And I'm only doing basic things, at the gym, a little bit of bicep curls, walking on the treadmill, things like that. And I'm following different programs I'm seeing from these snippets of bodybuilders and these magazines. And I'm just following these programs, what I can do. And then I started moving better, and I started losing just a little bit of weight, and I started feeling better. But I'm still eating and drinking, but I'm just working out now.
Mm.
And so then I said, you know what? I'm going to try to eat better. And I went from eating fast food every day to fast food for like 2 or 3 days a week. And that was a lot. That was really hard for me.
Sure.
Um,
Because you probably didn't know how to cook. You didn't even know how to make like healthy things. So
I
it's a
knew
whole
how to
learning curve.
I knew how to make hot link sandwiches, fries, and spaghetti.
Which is pretty close to fast food ish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And cornbread. I knew how to make cornbread. But
Oh, that sounds good.
so I'm just like a slow. I'm just gradually trying to get this thing and understand, and at that time, as soon as I started eating a little better, I really started moving better, and I started losing more weight, but I'm still drinking.
Yeah.
Um, and then I befriend people at the gym. It's like a community. Everybody kind of sees you if you come in at the same time. It felt good to like be amongst. And I started going and going, and then eventually I'm just cutting down, and something happened to where I got tonsillitis,
Hmm.
and I had to go to the doctor. I never had tonsillitis. I go to the emergency room. They tell me I got tonsillitis. They prescribe me some antibiotics, some aspirin, penicillin, antibiotics, and then Vicodin.
Mm.
But I had no idea. I was oblivious to prescription pills, pain
Yeah.
pills, right? And I remember getting all this medication. I'm at home. I'm feeling better. I never took the Vicodin. I always knew that you needed to take antibiotics. That's all. And so
Yeah.
that's all I took. went away, right? 5 months later, I started feeling this thing in my throat, and I'm like, oh no, I don't have any antibiotics. I, I don't want to go back to the doctor. It's too expensive. You know what? I still got this bottle in my medicine cabinet.
Mm,
It was the Vicodin. Still oblivious to pain pills.
yeah.
Um, I took one. I remember I was walking to class, and I was like, oh, this feels really good.
Mm,
Like this effect hit me. And I get to class and I'm warm and I'm looking around and everything is just jolly. And I take another one while I'm in class and I'm like, man, this is nice. That's when my pain pill addiction started.
mm,
And I mean, it hit me. It hit me good.
yeah.
So when I would go out, that was part of my uh, pregame was have some pain pills, have some
Oh man.
alcohol, go
Well, and
out.
that's a combination that's not the best either. I mean,
No,
that's dangerous blackout shit right there.
no. But what it did, what I learned from what the reason why I enjoyed it so much was not just the way it made me feel, but it also suppressed my appetite.
Mm,
And so I wasn't as hungry. I didn't have cravings for things. So I ate less and I started working out more. And it got to the point where, I went from 330 and the lowest I weighed before I left Chico was 179.
wow.
But it was just a skinnier version of my big self. And so that was my addiction. It was just pain pills and alcohol.
Yeah.
Um, and what's funny is that the community of people at this gym, most of them, they will go out. Chico's such a small space. They will go out. Same people from the gym go out, take shots, drink. You got all these fit individuals that are drinking, and people people would do pain pills as well. I mean, I was
Mm.
like, wow, this is a whole new world for me. Like, I didn't know you can exercise, be healthy, and this and that, and do this on the side, and it's not going to affect you. That was my mindset,
Yeah.
trying to fit in, trying to go with the flow. Um, so that's where that started.
Mm. Well, and
And
it probably felt nice to feel like you kind of had a tribe of like-minded people, healthy ish, but being okay. They're not you see them in the corners, on the streets, and homeless drug addicts. Like, you have a group where it seems like it's okay.
yeah, well, and I didn't see anything wrong with it. I felt good. I lost weight. I think I'm look good. I mean, people are complimenting me like, man, you look, wow, you lost all that weight. How'd you do it? Da 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 da. And
Yeah, I mean, 160 pounds is a lot. That's like a person
yeah,
that you
yeah.
lost.
But I would run, I would bike. I mean, my warm up, I would ride my bike maybe 9 miles to the gym, get to the gym. My warm up was an hour long treadmill run. That
Mm,
was my warm up. And then I would stay at the gym for 2 extra hours, just doing different stuff and ride my bike back and hardly eat anything. So it was an unhealthy way, but I mean I just shred.
yeah, I bet.
So I met my son's, well, I rekindled with my son's mother, my oldest son. We've known each other, when we were younger. She lived in the Bay Area. I seen her on Instagram and hit her up, and we ended up dating. And she gets pregnant,
Mm,
and so, um, 2014, my oldest son, his birthday just passed July 20th, 2014. She had our son, and so I moved back from Chico to the Bay Area, and I was so depressed.
mm,
I was depressed. I mean, I was this. First of all, I was a new father. So I'm trying to battle all these emotions of how to be a father and, learning as I go. And then I'm back in the Bay Area where I didn't want to be. I, built a community, with people in Chico with health and fitness, and I feel like I wasn't going to get that again. I miss the trees. I miss the small town stuff, So I'm back here in this terrible weather, I'm living in Richmond, and I'm just like, oh man, I really don't want to be here. I
Mm.
don't have any pain pills, right? That was my addiction. And, I can't go out, I can't do all the things. And so I was struggling a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my son's mother, she was in remission at the time because she battled cancer, Hodgkin's lymphoma. And um, so when we had our son, sorry if I sound like I'm all over the place.
It's
Um,
okay.
when she had our son, when she got pregnant, it was a miracle. And so because of all the chemo that she had went through,
Oh,
uh,
wow.
prior, um, so we decided, she wanted to move forward, even though the doctors tried to talk her out of it. Well, her cancer, it came back when she was
Uh,
pregnant. So long story short, Ethan's born. He's here. I'm back in the Bay trying to figure out my direction.
so
Thankfully,
she delivered healthy. She was okay. He was okay, even with all the other stuff.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah,
Amazing.
uh,
Miracle.
yeah, major miracle. I mean, he is the light of my life. Um,
Oh.
and well, here's the deal. Because she was in remission, because she went through all this cancer treatment, because she's, you know, living at the hospital is like second nature for her. I ended up stumbling upon her little medicine cabinet,
Mhm.
and she had a drawer full of prescription pills, Norcos to be exact.
Mm.
I was like, well, she doesn't use them because she didn't like the way they made her feel. I mean, she had like 10 bottles. And I remember saying, oh, well, it's not going to hurt if I take one pill. So I take one. Well, one turns into two,
Yeah.
two turns into five, five turns into a bottle. That bottle turns into 8 or 9 bottles. And I get caught, obviously. And she wasn't happy about it. She was well aware of my pain pill addiction when we were dating. She knew that's something that I did. And, I lied and said I was trying to, I know it wasn't doing it anymore, or I was trying to fix it and this and that. I mean, I came with all the excuses, but when that happened, she was pissed, rightfully so. Um, and so,
How did
we
she
talked.
catch you? Did she notice like all the pills were gone, or it was your behavior? Like what was the giveaway?
No, I was good at hiding it with my behavior. Yeah, she stumbled upon she went back to her medicine drawer and realized they were all gone. I
Mm.
mean, I had tried to stuff it with like little pieces of tissue paper till I was going to come up with this master plan on how to
You didn't want to just buy
replenish
some
it.
vitamins and throw them in there?
I know. Well, I wasn't that smart then. Um, yeah, and we had a talk, man. It was a hard talk, but what's surprising is she was actually a little bit more, as mad as she was a little bit more receptive to trying to work through it, right?
Yeah.
Well, 2 weeks later, she went to the doctor, got another prescription. She has some Norcos, and I knew she did. And my addiction was just caught my disease was just calling. So I took 2 pills out of it, and she
Mm.
was pissed.
Mm.
And so, um, after all that, I had to get my mother involved, my stepmother involved, which is my father's ex-wife, who's still close with me today, and I got a therapist. Right, got a therapist. Me and him are still close till this day, and he helped me work through that. And as a matter of fact, I ended up losing the feeling of what pain pills, how they made me feel. Like I lost
Mm.
it, so I didn't miss it because I actually
Almost like
lost it.
aversion therapy where you just think about it and you're like, you don't get those same warm feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
So I forgot about it, but my drinking went up
Mm.
and I wasn't working out, right? My drinking went up. I mean, I was drinking a lot, like wine, like a bottle of wine, a bottle of Smoking Loon or Yellowtail, not as much hard alcohol because I always felt like if I drank hard alcohol around my son, then
Mm.
I'll just be too out of it. I'll just have wine or beer,
Yeah, but a lot.
but a
Yeah.
lot. Um, And then I said, well, dang, I got to get in shape. Like I'm losing it. This is not where I want to be. I'm not doing pain pills anymore. Good. But I need to get back. Right. So I started going to 24-hour fitness. Kind of started back over, but I wasn't 300 pounds. I got up to like 220, 225. And I started working out, started feeling good. But I seen this girl at the 24-hour fitness. She had a CrossFit sweatshirt on.
Mm.
Now I had heard about CrossFit. Actually, when I was in Chico, I seen people that did CrossFit. They wear the little headbands. They all matched. They're doing snatches. I didn't know what snatches were at the time. And I was just like, what the is this, man? Like, there's
Yeah.
synchro doing this, doing that, jumping around. Like, I was like, I lift weights. I'm a weightlifter. Like,
Yeah.
that's not working out. I just so happened to know a girl in Chico. She was always trying to get me to try CrossFit. And I was like, no, I'm good. I'm straight, you know. But anyways, um, so I'm at the 24-hour fitness gym and I
It
see,
can look a little cultish for sure.
well, that was back in 2013, 2012,
Yeah, that's
you
in
know.
its early days. Yeah.
Yeah. I just wasn't interested. It was no, that's not me.
Yeah.
Um, I've done hit group training, before. This gym in Chico called Alpha Strong. I mean, that was the first gym I did like group training and I loved it. But CrossFit would just seem like it was just a bunch of nerds that finally got cool. That was my idea.
You might not be wrong on that.
Like all these World of Warcraft people just found their fitness regimen. No.
But how
Hope,
cool is that? Like,
oh,
yes, you found it.
yeah. Hopefully nobody feels offended by that. I'm sorry. I apologize.
I mean, I think both of us being CrossFitters, we can make fun of it
Yeah,
and
yeah,
ourselves and
yeah,
the community.
yeah. So I seen this girl. She had a CrossFit. It said CrossFit 510,
Mm.
and she was black, which I didn't never seen anybody of color doing CrossFit, right?
Mm.
Um, and so I was like, wow, I'm gonna have to look this gym up, CrossFit 510. So me being the cheapskate I am, I look on Groupon, and this
How
gym
I
is.
started too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You know what? I've talked to a few people. They've all started with a Groupon. I feel like we're like brothers and sisters. I don't know why.
Yeah. How great is that? What a genius idea. Look at all of us still in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So I did a Groupon, man. CrossFit 510. They're now called 510 Training Company. I went in, and there's just all these different ethnicities, different, everybody older and younger. I was just like, wow, like okay. And I go in and I do the little intro day, and the first lift that I learned how to do was a push jerk.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, this is interesting, And then immediately after that, I get thrown in the class. Okay, now I've never done cleans. I never done any of the stuff, you know, the Olympic lifting. None of that. I've never even seen it before.
Yeah.
So the workout, my first, the workout that was given, it was 100 hang cleans for time, but every minute on the minute, 5 burpees.
Oh, I hate those workouts. Those are the worst workouts for me ever.
And I remember there was this younger kid to my left, this older guy to my right. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
well, if they can do it, I could do it. I died.
Yeah.
It was, and I didn't even do the RX, which is 135. I did 95. They scaled me back, and I was just like, what is this? You
Yeah.
know?
Well, and that's a weird movement. Even the hangs, it's just like such a short distance. It's not as explosive. It's like, yeah, that's for a brand new person. That's a lot. Oh,
Grip was
grip.
shot. You
Yeah. Of
know, I know I wasn't doing it correctly, and
course not.
no disrespect to the coaches. It was a big class. They just didn't have time to come and correct me. But um yeah, I died. And after that, I remember I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go back.
Ah,
And because it challenged me and it
yeah.
humbled me. And I had never been humbled by a workout ever, you know. Um, and so I went back and I kept going and I kept going and I was eating better. I got into the ecosystem. I got my first pair of Metcons and I got grip. I mean, there was no grips at the time. I got wristbands and you know, um,
Knee sleeves, like the
knee
whole thing.
sleeves, the whole thing,
Yeah.
I'm going every day. And,
Yeah.
my girlfriend, oh, and then I started doing paleo.
Mm,
And then I stumbled upon uh, the Fittest on Earth documentary. And that's when I watched the athletes, I didn't even know there was a CrossFit Games. Okay.
mm,
So I'm like 2 or 3 months in, and I remember they were doing the open. And I was like, what the hell is the open? You know?
yeah.
And I did the open in that year. My coach at the time, even though I didn't sign up, didn't know anything about signing up online or nothing, he was like, I want you to do the open workout. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. Right. And it was the 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 snatches with 15 burpee box jump over.
Oof. Yeah. Yep.
And I died on that
Yeah.
workout.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they're like, yeah, it's CrossFit Games, da 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 da. So I remember just going online, looking at what the CrossFit Games is, and then I seen this documentary, and it was the Fittest on Earth. And so I watched that documentary, and I was so blown away and intrigued by the athletes. Not just their physique, but just their mentality of training. I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. This is how I want
Yeah.
to be. You know, I watch that documentary every day, every
Oh,
single day. It was like, some people watch Rocky and it
yeah.
motivates them to, that was my motivation. And, it was good. I felt good. Like I was looking good. I was going to therapy. I was drinking, but not as much, because I was doing
Mm,
paleo.
yeah.
Um, and, life was good. I mean, I was having relationship issues with my son's mother. We weren't really getting along. At that time, my son was diagnosed with being autistic on the spectrum.
Mm,
And, um, it was not, at that time, we took it so hard,
yeah.
worried. It's not a negative thing by any means, but at that time, it was just, it was the unknown of, well, what's going to
Yeah.
happen,
They didn't have the information that they have now. And yeah, totally.
you know. And life was good. So fall of 2016, most of 2017, I ended up going to a bachelor party in Lake Tahoe, August 2017. And
Mm,
when I went to this bachelor party, it was my friends from Chico, um, my friend who lives in Seattle now. Um, he was getting married. And we go to this bachelor party in Tahoe, and we're partying, we're drinking, just like a regular bachelor party. And the day that we were getting ready to leave, that morning, I mean, I was hungover. It was bad. I got trashed the night before. And I remember I'm in the hotel room. I got the blinds closed. I'm just having a hard time. And one of the guys that was at the party calls me from the phone, and he's like, "Hey, why don't you come over to our room?" I was like, "Nah, man, I'm just gonna get some breakfast and go." He was like, "No, come over. I got something to help you." I was like, "All right." So I get up, you know, and I go over there, and there's all these people that just random people that I didn't know. I guess they had met the night before, and um, there was just a whole bunch of cocaine on this plate, and I had never did cocaine before. And
Mm.
he was like, "Oh, just take a line, just take a line." And I was like, "All right." I took it. That changed everything for me. That one line.
Mm. And
It
not for the best.
No,
Yeah.
it rocked my world. It rocked my world. And, you know, I ended up talking to the guy who had supplied it to give me some, sell me some. So I took it back home, and it lasted me for about 2 to 3 weeks.
Mm.
And, I'm hiding it. Kind of,
Cocaine lasted you for 2 to 3 weeks?
I was new at it. I was new.
Okay, I was like, damn,
Yeah.
dude, that does not
Yeah.
that's
I
not
mean,
normal.
it was a brand new addiction for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you weren't all in
No,
yet.
no, I was just a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
At that time, I was driving for a rideshare company,
Mm,
and I would just do it and drive, and keep me going. And I was missing a few days of CrossFit,
mm.
and then I just so happened to meet someone on a ride, picking up a passenger, and I met this person, and I just felt like we had a good connection. And I asked him, I said, "Hey, do you know anybody that has it?" He was like, "Yeah, I do." And he connected me with this person, and me and that person was like my best friend
Mhm.
after that.
Yep.
Um, and then I stopped going to CrossFit and told the coaches, I'm having some financial issues, and but the real reason was I wanted to continue that.
Well, and also cocaine's not cheap. So the financial issues might have been true because cocaine's expensive.
Yeah, yes, it is. Yes, it is. But I did what I had to do to make sure I had it.
Yep.
Um, and from that point on, it was like it was just a hell on wheels, man. Um, my mom was diagnosed with cancer in 2018. Um, my son's mother found out that I was doing cocaine, kicked me out. So I'm moving into with my mother and stepfather in Antioch. And, I was
Mm.
actually happy because, um, I knew my mother was very ill. So I wanted to be close with her. But also, I wanted to do as much drugs and drink as I could.
Without all the responsibilities of being a full-time dad and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was hard.
Mm.
So um moved in, and now I'll never forget this. I moved in with my mom and stepdad. They took me in, and my son's mother called my mother.
Mm.
My mother had her own speakerphone. I could hear her from the other room, and she's just telling her this and that, and
Oh.
she's upset, and she's telling her about the cocaine and da 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 da, and she gets off the phone with her, and my mom is brings me into the room, tells me to come in the room, and I sit on the bed,
Mm.
and we talk about it. And I try to dummy it down, like, yeah, I just do it every once in a while, when I'm going here. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, I'm totally dummying down,
Yeah.
but she has no idea how hard I'm really going. And this was the last conversation I had with my mom,
Mm.
was about my drug addiction. Um, and she said, anybody that's getting you to do that, they're not your friend, and I love you, and you're better than that. What are you doing? Why aren't you doing
Mm.
CrossFit? I was like, I am going to do CrossFit. I said, I found a gym here in Antioch. I'm going to sign up. And so to like people please, I literally signed up immediately, went down to this gym. It's called Golden State CrossFit in Antioch,
Mm.
met the owner, met the coaches, and I told my mom, see, I'm in CrossFit now. Everything's going to be okay. I'm fine. Right.
Yeah.
Well, that same week that I signed up for CrossFit, that same week, my mother goes into the hospital, and um, she's like just having some difficulty. Well, so then my sister, my stepfather, my aunt, myself, we all take shifts at this hospital to kind of stay and watch her. And
Mm.
so this upcoming that Wednesday came, and I remember it was my shift. I walk into the room, and my mother is just kind of like holding this breakfast sausage that they given her for breakfast, like, and she's just like doing this, and I'm like, Mommy, what's wrong? What are you doing? She's like, Rory, and then she kind of looks down and she looks back up. She says, I'm losing it. I'm losing it. And I'm like, what's wrong? And the drugs that she had, they given her, she was just kind of losing her mind a little bit.
Mm.
So that was Wednesday, and then here comes Thursday, and then here comes Friday. Friday, we get a call that she's in ICU. So we go to the ICU. We're all waiting. My family comes to the hospital. My son's mother and her mother and my son come to the hospital. Big support system comes. We're all waiting in
Yeah.
the waiting room from like 7 in the morning to about um, 7 at night. And it got to a point where, number one, my anxiety is through the roof.
Yeah.
I want to drink. I want to use.
Yeah.
Um, I want my mom to be better. I want my
Mm.
life to be better. And the doctor said, she's stable. Her vitals are looking good. She's doing very well. And so a lot of people started leaving because everybody thought she was going to be okay.
Yeah.
And so everybody leaves. My sister decides to stay at the hospital with her friend. She's like, I'm going to watch mommy. I'll be here. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to go get something to eat. And what I ended up doing was going to meet my dealer.
Getting some cocaine. Yeah.
And I get to my destination, which is about 40 minutes away, 45 minutes away. And got my got my cocaine on my lap, spread it out. I got a bottle. I'm like, all right, my mom is gonna be good. I'm good. I get a call from my sister. She's like, where are you? I need you to come back. Mommy's not doing well. I'm like, all right, I'll be on my way. But I'm just kind of like, the anxiety kicks in. So
Sure.
I do my lines. I haul ass all the way back there. Finally get
Yeah.
to the
45
hospital.
minutes is pretty far away, too. It's not like you're right down the street. Like yeah, that's ways.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hauling ass. I'm going over 100 on the freeway, you know.
Wow.
Didn't get pulled over.
Thank God.
Um, get to the hospital, and I just felt this kind of like this loss just
Mm.
kind of went through me. And that's when I knew. And I get to the hospital, I run down the hall. I had to go upstairs. I run down the other hall. Security's like kind of following me, they don't know what's going on. I get to the door. Some of my family had shown back up. And I remember um, my aunt's husband, he looks at me and he just kind of looks down. And I walk in and my uncle is crying. My mother had the defibrillator off her mouth. It was like blood around her mouth. And she was just stone cold. And my mom was gone.
Mm.
And so after that,
And
you
to
know,
see that, like, that's not a visual you want to be mulling over in your brain.
yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, um, I held her hand. I told her how much I loved her. And, you know, went back to my car and just sat there and just cried it out. And I, you would think after that, hey Rory,
Mm.
it's time to stop. You know, no, it
You
got
would think,
worse.
but there's a lot of grief and guilt there that needed to be processed as well. So, and numbing out, like nobody wants to actually have to deal with that kind of pain.
Yeah, it got worse.
Yeah.
Got worse. Um, the guilt and shame
Yeah.
that I felt, right, actually fueled my addiction to go even worse. Right. So I literally, and I've said this before, I said this in an article, I've said this on the other podcasts, I drank and used from August 11th, 2018, was when she passed, to December 31st, 2019. I drank and used every single day.
Wow.
2019. And by the way, I am trying to go to CrossFit, but only because I felt like I just needed to get out of the house and try.
Yeah.
I befriend a coach who's like my best friend today, Chalk Sanchez. He's the owner of Golden State CrossFit in Antioch. He's well aware of my issues.
Yeah.
He's trying to do the best he can as a coach to help me succeed in CrossFit, but he also is aware of, everything.
Yeah.
I didn't open up to him about my cocaine and alcohol as on early on. It took a little bit, but if I finally felt confident enough to talk to him, because at that point, Angie, a lot of people in my life started to walk away,
Yeah. Because they could see what was happening. They knew.
and I was just so angry. I was
Yeah.
angry at the world, man. Like but it's almost like I wanted people to like pat me on the back and say, it's okay. It's okay to do coke and drink. We know that your mom died. It's okay. I mean, that's looking back on it, that's kind of what I wanted. I wanted people to be more understanding.
Right.
So I didn't really have a lot of friends at that time. I had a very small circle of people that stayed with me. Chog was one of them.
Mm.
And, you know, he came up with this workout for my mom, this memorial workout,
Oh,
which honored her birthday.
yeah.
So here's the deal. The day after Mother's Day in 2019, I decided, well, 2 days after Mother's Day in 2019, I decided to get hammered and drive. And I ended
Mm.
up crashing into a tree and almost dying.
Wow.
And I ended up going to jail to Santa Rita for the night. And the next day, I remember just my stepfather was very disappointed and highly upset.
Yeah.
My stepmother, who had came and picked me up, she drove all the way from Sacramento down to pick me up. She was upset, but she's a little bit more kind. I didn't hear from my sister. My son's mother, I called her from when I was going to jail. She was very surprisingly, she was actually very uh, concerned, you know.
Mm.
But afterwards, she let me have it.
Yep.
And so I didn't have a car. So I'm walking and to the gym. I'm catching the Barton Uber to go pick up my drug of choice and pick up bottles. I mean, my life was a mess, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so all that said, my coach decided to create this workout. Well, I asked him to help me, and he decided to create this workout.
Yeah.
My mother's birthday,
Okay.
6 rounds for time, 28
Okay.
wall balls, 19 deadlifts, and 61 double unders. And he was like, "Why don't you come to the gym and do it?" And this is in August of
Mm.
2019. I was like, "Oh, okay, whatever." So I remember I get up, I walk, and it's like a 7 or 8 mile walk. And I get there and I do this workout, and it takes me an hour and 30 something minutes to do this workout.
And did you say it was, can you give me the date again? Because I'm just piecing that together in my head.
6/28, 1961.
6/20. Okay. I was like, that's close. I'm 6/12. So that's why I
Are
was,
you?
yeah, 6/12, 71. Yeah. Um,
June, June babies are special.
yeah.
Everybody that's been born in June is
Yeah.
always an awesome person. Seriously.
So, thanks.
Um, yeah. So 6 rounds for time, 28 wall balls,
Woo.
19 deadlifts at 225,
225. Okay.
155 for ladies.
That's nice. That's doable.
it's
I,
it's 60.
I like that weight for a high rep. Okay.
and 61 double unders, man. And
That I don't love. I'm terrible at double unders. I would just beat the crap out of myself. That would be awful for me.
it destroyed me,
Yeah.
you know. And Angie, honestly, after that workout, I was very appreciative of him. I remember I got home just a sweaty, stinking mess. I decided to walk to Walmart to get the cheapest bottle I can get. I didn't even shower when I got home. I just drank this bottle and passed out. And I said, I'm done.
Mm.
And I said, I'm done with CrossFit.
Mm.
Michael Caine use got worse. Um, I mean, it was just out of control. Then it got to a point where I wasn't even getting out of bed. I still had a job, thankfully,
Yeah.
but I wasn't getting out of bed. I would just stay in bed, you know. Um, I got to the point where I was like, this is my life. This is it. This is all I'm good for. The only thing that makes me happy is using and drinking. You know, I would go pick up my son with an Uber and get on BART, but even though I would get him and be with him, I still wasn't emotionally and spiritually sound for him.
Yeah.
Um, I felt disgraced. You know, my son's mother would let me have it via text, on the phone, in person. I just felt low to the earth, man. I didn't want to live anymore.
Yeah.
And so finally in 2020, you know, my stepmother, seeing how bad things were getting, she offered to allow me to move to Sacramento to come live with her. And things were getting bad between my stepfather and I at the house, to where it was like I was spending my money on coke and I couldn't pay rent. And I was like, she's not going to charge me rent. So yeah, I'm going to move up there.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, changing my geographic location would, maybe that would help me get clean again, you
Sure.
know?
Yeah.
So I moved to Sacramento and things are calm for about a month or two. I'm walking, you know, I'm back up to 340 pounds at this point.
Wow.
I'm walking around the neighborhood. It's a really nice neighborhood. Um, I'm just walking up and down, you know, maybe a mile and a half a day, just walking, starting there. But then, you know, I started drinking again. I started going to the gas station, grabbing a bottle of wine, and I would call my dealer, get on the Amtrak, go back to the Bay. Things started happening again, and then I would
Mm.
stop, then I would start, stop, start, and it got to the point where I lost visitation of seeing my son,
Mm.
and so on his birthday in 2020, as a matter of fact. And so when I lost visitation, when his mother wouldn't allow me to see him again anymore,
Mm.
I was like, no, I got to fight this. You know, I'm going to do this and that. Got a lawyer, went through the court process. I still had not seen him physically, but we fought it. We won. I was able to get visitation, but I had to do anger management, parenting class, random drug testing, and AA.
Mm.
And I was able to get my son every other weekend from 10 a.m. to um, 3 p.m. the next day.
Okay.
And but here's the deal: those 6 months when I hadn't seen him, I was a mess. You know,
Mm.
I was drinking heavily, using, you know,
Yeah.
but I won. And I said, all right, this is it. This is what's going to get me sober, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is what I need. I need like a hand to help me, stay sober. And so I'm doing the random drug testing, passing that. I had to do 14 of them. Doing AA. I'm like, this is different. Okay, but I'm open minded. I can get with it. Started to love it. Did the parenting class, loved it. Did anger management, loved it. And I started to feel like things were moving in the right direction. And I reconnected with Chog. He started giving me workouts. I bought a
Mm.
barbell. I bought an Echo bike. I started buying plates on OfferUp this is during COVID.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I'm rolling. This is what I need. Well, the problem is that when I was doing AA, I wasn't taking it serious. I was like, I'm not doing any steps. I don't want to sponsor. I'm going to just go to meetings. These
Mm,
random drug testing is what's going to keep me sober, but I don't need to do all the other stuff. But I appreciate the people in AA. They're very kind and loving, but I'm not like you.
yeah, I'm different.
So
Yeah.
different. And so the second to last drug test that I had to take, I remember I started getting nervous because I'm like, well, I'd be able to do this on my own. Will I be able to be sober for my son and not have to worry and have an obsession, you know? Am I going to continue to do AA? Like I'm going to have to do this all on my own free will. Like, can I handle it?
Yeah.
The last drug test, I remember I took it and I came home and I sat in my chair and I was like, all right, do I have an obsession? Do I want to call my dealer or find some? And I didn't. I was like, yeah, I'm cured.
Yeah.
I'm straight. I'm good. And I had a friend who invited me out that following weekend to this bar in Sacramento to watch a UFC fight. And I'm
Mm,
like, all right, well, I'm not going to drink. I'm just going to go watch the fight, eat some wings, whatever. Well, I go, we sit down at the bar. The first thing he did is put my favorite drink of choice in my face, which was a double shot of Jameson.
ugh,
Took that, everything went downhill from there.
man,
Started using again.
not a good friend right there.
And keep in mind, I got my license back. I got a car. So now
Yeah.
I'm driving back to the Bay, grabbing, drinking, driving all the way back to Sac. Man, it just got worse.
Yeah.
Man, came to a point where my stepmother gave me an ultimatum. She said, "You're either gonna go to rehab or you're gonna have to leave. You know, I'm not gonna keep doing this with you." So I decided to go to rehab
Mm,
and got into an outpatient program. I wasn't able to do inpatient because I didn't I wanted to continue to see my son and I didn't want to jeopardize that. So
mm,
went to this outpatient program, Azure Acres Recovery here in Sacramento. First day, I'm sitting in there. It's a group of us. I'm just broken, man. I'm like, how the hell did I get here? I was
mm,
just sober. I was just doing all the right things, working out, doing AA, all this stuff. How did this happen? How did I
mm.
let this happen? And um, that program, it was 9 weeks, Monday through Friday, from 5:30 at night to 8:30. It changed my life
Mm,
because I started to realize that drugs and alcohol, food, sex, porn, whatever, is not the problem.
yeah.
It is a problem for me, but it is not the problem for me. I'm the problem.
Mm. You're the
It's,
common denominator.
it's a common denominator. I
Yeah.
started to realize that all these things that I've been doing and trying to run to, there's no physical solution for something that's spiritual, for a spiritual disease. I guess you could say there's no physical solution for a spiritual disease. So when I did this program, I really paid attention. We got to the science of my disease, and my counselor, man, he's like my guardian angel. The
Mm,
last the last day I had to do my exit interview. He said, "You came on time, you stayed, you never asked," because I guess they would give you like 2 or 3 days off if you needed or something. He's like, "You came every day, you've pissed clean every week." He's like, "I'm very proud of you, but what are you gonna do when you leave here?" And I was like, "Well, I guess I'll go back to AA or NA. I mean, probably AA because they're pretty nice." He's like, "Well, what are you gonna do when you get to AA?" And I was like, "I don't know, get a sponsor." He's like, "You need to do everything that's suggested, and um, you have to understand that recovery You're going to need to exercise recovery for the rest of your life. It is going to be a day to day thing for you.
Yeah, there's no magic pill.
There's no magic pill, man.
No, no.
And I was like, all right. So I remember I went back to AA. I didn't go to the home group I was with before because I was ashamed to go there because I went back out. I relapsed.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
found a new home group in Sacramento, Midtown Solutions, and I went in there, man. It was just all these dark walls and people from all different varied walks of life, just coffee and uh see, I had never been to an in-person AA because prior it was COVID rules, so everything was on Zoom.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I walk in and I'm still feeling broken but nervous. And I walk in and I just sit down, I listen, I go back again and again, and then I meet my sponsor. And I remember when I met him, man, this guy is my heart, man. Like, he goes above and beyond for me, just like Chog has done for me in the
Yeah.
CrossFit world. But this guy is like, he's my uh he's my right hand man, my sponsor. And he meets me, we shake hands. He's like, "So what are you doing here?" And I'm like, you know, I just had a lot of mess ups, and it's led me here. And he was like, "Well, you got a sponsor?" And I was like, "Nah." He was like, "Well, I'll be your effing sponsor." He was like, Let me ask you a question. How do you feel about God? What do you think about God?" I was like, me and God don't got a good relationship, man. You know,
Mm,
um, I lost faith in God um, a long time ago. You know,
yeah.
he was like, "Huh, okay. Well, how about we just start by you believing that you're not God? Let's try that." I was like, "Okay." And so we started working the steps, and I started doing what's suggested. I started being of service. Um, I would still go back to my outpatient rehab every Thursday for what they call alumni night
Hmm.
to speak, listen, be amongst the newcomers coming into the outpatient program. I started CrossFit. So I found this CrossFit here where I'm currently coach at CrossFit 916 here in
Oh,
Elk
nice.
Grove. So I started working out there. I befriended a coach there who's no longer with us. He's passed away, but he's the one that inspired me to get my O1.
Yeah.
So as I'm doing recovery, I meet the love of my life. She's not in recovery, but I meet the love of my life. She's very supportive of me in in this process. Um,
Nice.
and I get my O1. I start coaching. I'm doing recovery. I'm working the steps. I get visitation of my son again.
Mm.
Things just started coming together. My the love of my life. We just had a son together last year.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So
All right.
him and my oldest are 5 days apart. So
Oh.
it's two birthdays back to back. Um,
But quite a few years in between.
yeah. So I started coaching. I get my
Yeah.
L1, and I reconnect with people in a different light. But now I'm working this thing different. See, CrossFit just wasn't enough to keep me sober.
Right.
It was a good option to keep me out of trouble some days, but I would always fall back into trouble outside of
Yeah.
the gym. CrossFit just keeps me healthy and keeps me disciplined, but recovery for me, I can't speak for everybody else. Recovery, working the steps, being of service, helping people, sharing my journey, sharing my story, that's what keeps me sober.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta be mastery of body, mind, and soul, or spirit, physical, mental. Like we can't just be all in on one and expect to be, doing well in all areas of our life. Like that's where that balance is so important.
Yeah,
But also doing the work in all those areas. You can't just like put it on auto either. Like all of them require work constantly to be a well-oiled machine.
constantly,
Yeah,
every day,
yeah.
every day. And I don't, I'll have 3 years, August 28th. But
Mm,
I tell people all the time, all these days that I have sober, they don't mean anything unless I'm doing something today, you know?
yeah,
because I can fall short. I can allow something to emotionally trigger me to make me want to go drink, right? And for me, it's always a snowball effect. Um, like I know, I can honestly tell you, if somebody gave me a Bud Light right now and I took a sip, I would be fine. I would not have an inclination to drink again. But the following weekend, if I had a Bud Light and instead of a sip, I took a gulp. And the following weekend, I had a whole beer. And then the following weekend, I had a six pack. I would start drinking out, hard alcohol. It's snowball effects for me, right?
Sure.
Like as soon as I think everything is all good, my ego tells me everything is all good. That's when I start to go like this. So I have to always be um, well aware, spiritually aware that I'm not all good. No matter how good things are, it's still not all good for me, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, one drink isn't enough, and 1,000 is never too many. And that works with cocaine lines too, straight up,
Oh, yeah. I think it works with almost every substance we probably shouldn't be doing. Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, being sober and actually working a program of recovery, not just dry drunking it. Because when you're dry drunking it, all
Yeah.
that all that does is take your disease and your addiction and shift somewhere else because you're still not dealing with what you're dealing with, right? You're
Right.
just shifting
And
the
they're
disease.
not happy people. Like dry drunks are not, or dry alcoholics. They're not happy people. They're fighting a demon, and it's not pleasant. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. I can honestly say, man, like um, the blessings of recovery and being sober and the actually knowing how to deal with life on life's terms. I didn't know how to do that before.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to operate. My people pleasing, my guilty conscience, all that stuff is gone. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I
Right
have to
on.
work on it every single day, but that's all I wanted was just relief from all
Yeah.
of that. You know,
Yeah.
um, I have people that still remind me of my past. Sometimes, oh, I remember when and I'm like, oh, that's cool. All right, I gotta go. Or, you know, um, some people, they look at you in your sobriety and they're like, oh, he thinks he's all that because he's doing. Oh, okay, that's cool. All right, I gotta, like
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
focus on that. Um,
No, and the people that have a problem with it are the ones that don't want that mirror shined back on them. So they're the ones that like get intimidated around people who have recovery and that sort of thing because they don't want to have to look at themselves, which, we provide beautiful mirrors for everybody, right?
you know, um, my mother's memorial workout that I spoke of before. We just recently did that workout
Aw.
in Aromas at the ranch. And
Oh, nice. Was that you were getting your level two, or you just went out there for something else?
no, I went out there to do Dave Castro. I sent him an email a while back and I met him a couple of years ago and we stayed in contact, or at least I tried to stay in contact with him. And I sent him an email. I said, hey, my mother's memorial workout's coming up on Friday, June 28th. Is there any way I can come down and do this workout at the ranch?
Yeah.
And he said, yes.
That's
And
amazing. Oh, I wish you would have told me. I would have loved to come
yeah,
do that with you. That's
yeah.
so cool.
And I invited people from my gym,
Yeah.
coach Chog and his wife Jamesia from Golden State. They came, and then another friend who does CrossFit at a different gym at CrossFit Communitas. His name is Mark. He came down. He's also in the
Nice.
program of AA, and we were just doing this. And I remember just looking around, and I was like, wow, like sobriety is pretty fucking cool.
Your mom would be so proud. She is so proud.
You know, I'll leave it with this. I know I just been rambling. I
No,
probably
you're all good. You're fine.
probably haven't gave you time to talk, but my son's mother, Ethan, um, his mother passed away this past February,
Oh, I'm sorry to
and
hear that.
now he's with me 100% full time. if it wasn't for recovery, the people in recovery, the uh, the principles that I've learned in recovery, the letting go of the guilt, shame, and obsession, and the self, all that self-centeredness, I would not, in any way, shape, or form, if this was the past, know how to deal with this. I mean,
Yeah.
work through this. Excuse me, not deal with this. Work through this.
Yep.
You know, I'm very thankful and grateful of sobriety in the journey because it's prepared me for this, to be there for him. I get to be there for him. You know, I
Yeah.
could still be strung out. I could have been in prison. I could have been dead, and he
Yep.
wouldn't have his dad or his mom.
Yeah.
And you know, CrossFit helps with that fight. Recovery helps with that spiritual aspect of the fight. And I'm very thankful for both, man, because I don't know where the hell I would be, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and you've fought for it. It's not like we talked about. It's not a magic pill and you just make the decision. I'm great now. Like you fight for it on a daily basis and you're mindful of what you need to do to maintain what you've got and to keep going forward. So that's very much very well done to you. And you should be very proud of yourself as well.
thank you.
All right. So here's my big question.
What's that?
Sacramento Kings or Golden State Warriors?
Warriors.
Thank God.
Jesus,
The whole time I was like, fuck, is he a Kings fan? He spent a lot of time up there.
every time I've heard someone say light the beam, I'm like, oh my God. Who when did Kings fans come around? Like if you were a Kings fan back in the day when the Lakers came up here and it was the Lakers fans filled the stadium, there was
Yep.
no Kings fans. And if you
Yep.
were a Kings fan then, I got love for you.
Yep.
Everybody else, no. But I mean, I get it. They're happy. It's a
Yeah, they
nice.
finally got a decent team to rally behind. And when you've had a terrible, we've been very fortunate. Not
Mhm.
always with Golden State, but definitely the last 10 years has been pretty awesome.
Very awesome.
Yeah. And what's your feelings on Clay leaving?
Um, it's interesting because like when you're up, and I've learned this in sobriety, when you're
Yep.
up and up, everybody wants to be around you. Everybody wants to praise you. They wanna say how good you are, how good you're doing. But when you're down, everybody wants to talk bad about you, or they say, good riddance or this and that, you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
so for me, it's like Clay, I mean, especially back in, 2014,
Yeah.
2014, 2015, that first year we won. Um, he's been the heart and backbone, and yeah, father time does catch up, but I think a lot of bandwagon fans and people that just aren't knowledgeable about sports in general, it's easy to critique um, players from afar, and everybody has a voice because of social media now. But
Yep.
I truly believe in my heart, man, he's done a lot for the organization. And you know what?
Yeah.
So has Draymond. People
Yeah.
talk bad about him, but they've
I
done a
love
lot.
him. I
Yeah,
love him. Yeah.
they've done a lot, man. So
Yeah.
my heart goes out to him, and I'm so happy that he had his time there. And
Yeah.
but we can't go backwards.
We can't. I think Clay took a lot of that criticism to heart and then it affected his gameplay and he was fighting himself. He was fighting himself the whole time and I'm happy that he's going to a good team. I really would I mean, I don't want them to beat us, but I'm
Right,
really glad
right.
that he's going to a good team and hopefully that fresh start will handle whatever doubts that he has about himself and his gameplay as well. Because yeah, I totally love him. I'm kind of heartbroken that he's left, but at the same time, I'm kind of happy that he's getting a new start. It's
Yeah,
gonna be weird seeing Steph and Draymond without Clay there. Like I don't know how they're going to handle that. Like, I mean, I'm sure they'll be fine. They're both professionals. Steph's amazing. You could throw anything at Steph and he's going to be fine. But
yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see going forward what that looks like.
yep, yep. But I mean, that's just sports, man. Things
It is. It is.
always changing. A lot
So
of
you're
good
a Niners
players.
fan, right?
I am a Raiders fan.
Oh,
I am a Las Vegas Raiders fan. So
Okay. Okay.
excited,
Um,
excited about our season too. So we'll see.
yeah, you've been watching that show Receivers?
You know what? I just seen it on Netflix. I put it on my list. I was like,
So
oh,
good.
how did I not? How did I miss
So
this?
good. It just
It's,
came out. It's so good. Yeah. So there's, Devontae Adams. So it's great. We get that Raiders feel.
mm,
Max Crosby's in there because they're like best buddies. And then I have my two favorite Niners. Well, not my favorite Niner. Well, Kittle's one of my favorite Niners, and Debo. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty great. I love it. I don't think I'm going to be able to watch past season 6 because our loss and whatnot. And I think
right.
it kind of showcases that. That's going to be a little too
Too hard.
heartbreaking to see
Yeah.
that close up. But we got this year coming
Yeah.
up soon. Thank gosh.
Yeah. I mean, I'm proud of the Niners, man. I'm not a Niner hater like some like 90% of Raiders fans.
True.
I'm not a
It's true.
Niners hater.
And I am not a Raider hater anymore. I used to be a very much Raider hater, and I just am not. I think the Seahawks took that. Now I'm just a Seahawks hater.
Are you just saying that because we're on this call right now? Are you just saying that to me? You being
No,
honest?
I actually am not a Raider hater. I like a lot of the team. I hope their coach does well by them. Yeah, different times. I mean, how cool is that they dress up like Darth Vader in the stands? Like, I love that sort of like
Yeah.
dark, gritty, like badass kind of feel. I like that a lot.
Had you ever been to a Raiders game in Oakland?
I had not. I had gone to a preseason game at Candlestick with the Raiders, and I think people got killed at that. And I'm like, I will never. I'm not going to be going over to Oakland and be
Yeah.
sporting my Niner jersey. Like, if people are getting killed at the Niner Stadium in a preseason game, no way.
Right. Right. Well, yeah, we'll see how things go this year. I'm excited. I'm
I'm
excited to see.
excited too. And I'm thankful we have great teams around us. Not everybody has that blessing, so I feel pretty good about it. And I love those sports. They keep me going for sure.
So how long you been doing CrossFit? I don't think I heard, synopsis of your
I
CrossFit journey.
think again, so here's I'll give you real quick because I know we're short on time here. So I had gone out of the country with my family for work for like a month. When I came back, my whole team had gotten this group on and had started when CrossFit Watsonville opened, and that's how they got the new people. And I was like, "What? Wait, what's everyone doing? Like, this is weird." But I'm such a group tribe person. I didn't want to be left out. So I'm going to say that was probably 10 or 11 years ago.
Oh,
And then, ooh, when we started Elevate 9 years ago, we put CrossFit in as part of our modality. So we've had CrossFit going since we started Elevate. I've had a gym up at my facility for like the last 6 years. I got my L1 5 years ago. So
nice.
yeah,
Nice. And
yeah, it's pretty awesome. I love it. I mean, and as you know, it translates really good in with recovery, not as a standalone, but it's a great piece to help people, especially when they go out after they leave our program. They've already got, a healthy, like-minded community that they could go into. And we really encourage everybody to do it. So.
okay. I'm gonna have to come down and visit and check you guys out. That'd be awesome.
Dude, you should come visit. Come, I would love to have you I talked to you about maybe coming on a Friday where you could come do a workout with us. You could see a graduation.
Okay.
Maybe we could do like a live podcast as well, but we would love to have you.
Okay. Sounds
Yeah.
good. We'll
I'll
do.
actually have well, you could work out with us or you could coach us. You're a level 2, so you're a little higher than I am. So,
Hey,
um,
we're all in the same boat. Same boat trying to oar this thing. You know what I mean? Don't matter.
that's right. Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. You've been
Thank you for
awesome.
the invite. I appreciate it. And I am so sorry if I rambled.
You're
That's
fine.
it's a bad habit.
No,
Bad
you didn't ramble. Your story was beautiful. You told it well. I like all the little nuances. It gives more understanding of how far you've come. So I appreciate your detail and all of the stuff that you shared with us. So thank
habit.
you very much.
Well, you have an awesome day, awesome rest of the week, and I talk to you
Yeah.
later.
Avoid this heat. You got it.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Thanks,
All
Angie.
right. Thank you. Talk soon.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.